Hi Leo, happy early birthday and welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your July 2026 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a 12 card spread with each card representing a different house of the zodiac. Starting with your sign, Leo, representing the first house, all the way through to Cancer representing the 12th. When we get through that as well, we'll pull an oracle card for some additional insight. For the main decks being used this month, for the main tarot deck, we have the Guardian of the Night Tarot, and for the Oracle deck, we'll be using the Spirit Animal Oracle. We're actually going to start the reading off by rolling some astrology dice to get an idea of where you folks should be as far as that goes. Alright, so we have Scorpio, and for you guys, Scorpio is actually your fourth house of home, roots, and family. Astrologically speaking, that area of the zodiac's quiet right now, but of course, you could still have some focus on their area of life nonetheless. All right, we have 6. So 6th house energy for you guys is Capricorn. And I will say basically at the time I'm recording this, we haven't had that full moon in Capricorn yet. But technically it'll be on the 29th of June. So even though this is a reading for July, maybe this is just saying you'll still be feeling the residual effects of that. And we have Uranus. So Uranus is actually in Gemini, which is your 11th house of friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes. So you may actually have some surprising events happen in that area of life as well. So we'll keep all that in mind as we go through the main spread. So for the first house energy, which represents personality, self-awareness, and appearance, we have the 10 of Swords in reverse. So yeah, so seeing this come up in reverse could just be saying that if there's been something that's really been worrying you for a long time, right, maybe some fear of loss of some kind, it could just be saying that now for whatever reason you're actually able to release some of that stress and anxiety around the situation. So, maybe you find out that the situation wasn't as bad as you initially thought, something along those lines there, right? Or maybe just as time's passed on, you feel like it's easier to leave these fears behind. All right, so for your second house energy, which points to possession, self-worth, and finances, we have the 6 of Wands reversed. So yeah, so this is actually Leo energy here. So see this come up could just be saying that maybe when it came to your finances, you might have thought that you were in a better position than you ended up being in reality. I mean, it sounds pretty relatable for most people these days with the state of the economies around the world, but nonetheless, I feel like this is just saying that, even though to see this in reverse, it doesn't mean that you're falling off a cliff financially. It could just be, again, like I said, maybe the perception of where you were at didn't necessarily match up with the reality, but, maybe just not as good as you thought, but also not too bad either. All right, so for your third house energy, which points to communication, short journeys, and siblings, we have the 10 of Pentacles. So this is Virgo energy here. So yeah, so this could just be saying that, especially, if you did feel like you had a bit of a setback financially, this could just be saying that maybe it's just going to actually have you recommitting to making sure that you do set yourselves up in the long term. So it could just be one of those things where you're like, okay, lesson learned, right? Let me have some discussions and, maybe do some brainstorming to figure out how I could get back on track financially and not have to worry about those kinds of things in the future. All right, so for your fourth house energy, we have the Ace of Swords. So yeah, so like I mentioned when we saw the dice come up, fourth house in general points to home, roots, family. So to see this here could just be saying maybe you have some kind of an epiphany in that area of life, right? Or it could just be saying that while you're within your home environment, you might actually come up with a good idea to help you move things forward. So in that case, it could be related to the finances we were just talking about. All right, so for your fifth house energy, which points to romance, creativity, and children, we have the 4 of Cups. So this is an energy that usually points to you feeling disappointed, like what's being offered to you doesn't necessarily align with what you want. So you could just be feeling like maybe abandoning ship in some area as far as that goes. So maybe, for example, if there was a creative project you were working on, right, where um, every time you look at the progress you made on it, you feel like you're not necessarily satisfied with how it looks, right? So you're like, okay, is it worth to continue putting in this work or not, right? If this is more of a romantic situation, right, could this be saying that maybe the romantic offers you're receiving don't really align with what you're looking for, so you're not necessarily enthusiastic about reciprocating any of that attention. All right, so for your sixth house energy, which we saw with the dice as well, we have the Two of Swords. So yeah, so this could just be saying that for some of you, maybe you have two different options at play that you're trying to decide between, and maybe having a little bit of difficulty doing so. But I mean, if we look at the artwork here, right, it looks like the frog has grabbed on to one of the options. So it could just be saying that maybe you will actually end up making the decision eventually, but it could just be one of those things where in the moment it might have been a little bit stressful to try to figure out which way to go. All right, so for your seventh house energy, which points to partnerships, contracts, and relationships, we have the Eight of Wands. So this is a pretty positive energy to see here. It's a Sagittarius energy. But yeah, to me, usually this points to success, getting things organized, getting things moving in the right direction. So overall, this looks like a good indicator as far as, if there are some partnerships in play for you guys, whether they be romantic or business, you name it. Looks like you'll see some positive forward momentum with them this month. All right, so for your eighth house, which points to death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments, we have the High Priestess. So yeah, so for some of you, this could just be saying that maybe you're learning to trust your intuition a little bit more when it comes to this area of life now. Given what we were talking about earlier, for a lot of you, I feel like this is pointing more to like an investment side of things, but it could just be one of those things. So just a super generic example, right? Maybe intuitively in the past you felt like, oh, this would be a good way to invest my money, right? And then for whatever reason, you might have talked yourself out of it and then realize that, oh, okay, had I actually trusted my initial intuition on the situation, it would have ended up paying off for me, right? So maybe for some of you, that's what the Six Wands is pointing to, right? Not a genuine loss as far as, might not have been money you put in and then ended up losing it, but just more of maybe an opportunity you passed up on. And now you're realizing, okay, maybe I should have trusted myself in the past. All right, for your ninth house energy, which points to philosophy, higher learning, and foreign affairs, we have the Ten of Wands. So, more Sagittarius energy popping up here. And with this, I feel like this is just saying that, maybe you've been putting your beliefs under a lot of scrutiny, right? And, there are some things that we could see here that maybe would have you questioning what beliefs still work for you, right? What you might need to reconsider, things along those lines there. But yeah, this could just be saying that you've been feeling a little bit overburdened with those thoughts lately. For some of you, this could also just be saying, like, let's say if you're in higher learning right now, or maybe if you're trying to get some certifications of some kind related to your career path, right? It could just be saying that there could be a little bit of exhaustion around that, right? But at the same time, I feel like there's awareness that it's coming to an end soon, but still just feeling a little bit weighed down by it all. All right, for your 10th house, which points primarily to career and social status, we have the moon. So yeah, so seeing this energy come up here, 10th house energy for you guys is Taurus, and we pretty much did just have Chiron move into Taurus, so that's going to be a pretty significant transit for you guys in the long run. But other than that, we had Uranus there for quite some time, and that's moved on, so maybe that was leading you guys to be in slightly erratic situations in the past when it came to your career. So maybe that's actually settling down in a way. But to see this come up could just be saying that, yeah, you might feel maybe that's related to the Two of Swords energy we see here. You might feel like you're not necessarily seeing the pathway forward clearly enough, right, to where you don't feel comfortable making a decision just yet. And with that in mind, keep in mind that we will have Mercury retrograde in Cancer, which is your 12th house, for Well, it starts on the 29th of June, and then it'll pretty much start a direct cycle again on the 23rd of July. So for a lot of the month of July, you'll have Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. So that could have you reconsidering things as well and feeling like you can't necessarily get a clear read on which way to go. But the positive there is that it would be a short term thing, right? So you might even start to feel the energy lift a little bit toward the end of the month. For your 11th house energy, pointing to friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes, we have the Five of Wands. So, yeah, so this could just be saying that maybe there's a certain level of competition with the groups you deal with, right? So maybe you might feel like it's a little disheartening to an extent, right? Because rather than people working toward one goal, right, you might have everyone who wants to do things their way. So at the root of it all, there might still be that desire for everyone to get things done. But again, instead of collaborating, they're making things more difficult by, doing it how they want to do it and not really worrying about how others would like to do it. All right. And for your 12th house energy, pointing to mental health, blind spots, and spirituality, we have the Chariot. So, Cancerian energy here, which is once again your 12th house. So, to see this here could just be saying that you might actually feel guided. So, I feel like this is actually related to the High Priestess in some way, as far as given that this is now 12th house energy, saying that there's going to be some forward positive momentum there, and then seeing the High Priestess coming up in 8th house as well, to me says that really you're just going to be getting a lot of intuitive insights this month. Maybe you won't even, you might feel like, where are these even coming from right now? But at the same time, I feel like the more you observe them, you actually see that they are trying to lead you down the right path. All right. And bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Pentacles. So this is Taurus energy here. So yeah, so for some of you, maybe you just feel like you might have reached the end of the road, right? As far as a career path, right? Maybe you feel like the growth opportunities have kind of dried up over the years. Like you can't necessarily get forward progress as far as that goes. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing with that. So it could just be one of those things where you're trying to decide you want to keep investing more energy and resources into the path you're on, or possibly consider something new. We'll see what the Oracle card adds to the mix. So we're going to pull a card from the Spirit Animal Oracle. I'm just going to give this a few shuffles, then we'll cut the deck and pull a card. Okay, take this card here, get this out of the way, and we'll see what you got. All right, we have Bee Spirit. It says, sweet results await. There's the artwork. The number is 7. So we'll see what this has to say. I mean, seeing the bees there, and we also see the bees with the 10 of Pentacles. So we'll see what it mentions. But that definitely caught my eye. All right, the Oracle message says the Bee Spirit's message is that sweet rewards are on their way if you are willing to get your ego out of the way and immerse yourself in the connected energy of all things. Bee Spirit knows not to let a sense of being a separate self get in the way of a good thing. Spirit is always producing honey. Miracles and magic are everywhere. When you connect with the great hive, you are vibrating and buzzing in exquisite harmony with all. Bee Spirit asks that you Bee Spirit asks that your focus be on connectivity. Your body, heart, soul, and psyche experience total interconnectedness and a true integration when you self-forget, when you remember that you are a part of a greater unified consciousness. Moving from separation into connection, from self-centered limitation to spirit-centered infinite possibility and potential, you become busy as a bee, enjoying the gifts of bee spirit, fully in alignment with your highest expression for yourself. Your heart opens and creativity rushes through you, seemingly without effort, as you experience that nothing feels like work. Industriousness is driven by enthusiasm and inner motivation, and time seems to fly by quickly as the hive supports you in the making of honey. Do you feel the presence of your helpers in the hidden realms, adding their energy to your creations? Magical results are taking form and will be sweeter than you expect. Bee Spirit wants you to remember that your part in the divine partnership with the conscious universe is being rewarded, even if you can't see that yet, and ask that you share your good fortune as there is plenty of honey for all. Be a part of the larger whole. The force that brings forth all is sweet and delightful. So yeah, definitely an interesting message there. Seems to point to an energy of community, right? And which is interesting, right? Because like I said, seeing the Five of Wands in your 11th house says that this month, at the very least, you might have people that just want to do things their way, and there is a lack of cooperation there, right? But it could just be saying you might have to have a little bit of faith that that energy will kind of ride itself out and things will get back on track soon. So once again, happy early birthday. Hopefully that resonated, and we'll wrap up there. Bye.